Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we talk about self-improvement or societal change, we're talking about tweaks.
Little adjustments.
Exactly. Better time management, maybe some tax reform, or, optimizing our morning routine to squeeze out 5% more productivity.
Right.
But what if the problem isn't the settings? What if the problem is the operating system itself?
That is the big question today, isn't it? We are not looking at a tweak, we're looking at a total format of the hard drive.
We really are. Today we're diving into a massive stack of essays and articles revolving around a philosophy called Lifechanyuan. The writings come mostly from a man named Suofeng, with some supporting texts by a figure known as Deiform Buddha.
And we should be clear right off the bat, this is radical stuff. I mean, we are talking about a worldview that suggests the things we consider the bedrocks of civilization.
Like marriage.
Marriage, the nuclear family, private property. That these are actually the root causes of all human misery.
It's a lot to process. Our mission today is to just unpack this logic. We want to understand, what is this system? How does it propose we live? And frankly, is there actual insight here we can use, or is it just tearing everything down?
And just a quick disclaimer before we jump in, we're here to report on the concepts we found in these texts. We're exploring the internal logic of this philosophy, impartially.
Yeah, we aren't endorsing it.
We aren't joining it, no, but we are going to take it seriously and see what it has to teach us about, well, the human condition.
So let's start at the very beginning. Why are we here? Suofeng starts with a premise about the purpose of life that I found. Well, actually quite refreshing in its simplicity.
It is surprisingly simple. He argues that life unfolds from just two purposes. The first one is immediate.
Yeah.
To lead a life on Earth that is happy, joyful, free, and blessed.
Which sounds a little like a greeting card, but he's deadly serious. If you aren't happy, you're failing the mission.
Exactly. If you're miserable, you're doing it wrong. But the second purpose, that's the long game. The goal is to extend life. And in the texts, it's always capitalized.
Right, I noticed that. It means something different.
It refers to your consciousness or your soul, and the goal is to extend that into higher spaces after death.
Right, he talks about these specific planes of existence, the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium Celestial Islands.
It's almost like a video game progression. You play this level, which is Earth, to build up your stats to get into the next better level.
And if you fail here,
you don't ascend.
Yeah.
You might even go backward.
And this brings us to the core mechanic of this whole game, which is the ladder of thinking. This was one of the most technical parts of the reading for me, but also maybe the most illuminating. Can you break down this hierarchy for us?
Sure. So Suofeng argues that what separates people from animals and even people from each other, it isn't money or status or IQ. No, it's your thinking level. And he identifies 8 specific rungs on this ladder.
And I'm guessing most of us are at the bottom.
Unfortunately, yes. The bottom rung is material thinking. This is where you believe that what you can see and touch is the only reality. You're driven by physical needs, eating, sleeping, reproducing.
He uses a pretty savage analogy here that I just can't get out of my head.
A pig analogy.
Yeah, a pig with 10 villas is still a pig.
It's harsh, but it really lands. His point is that you can dress up a material existence with all the luxury in the world, yachts, mansions, fine dining. But if your mind is still just operating on satisfying physical desires, your essential nature hasn't changed.
You're just a wealthy animal.
Exactly. And the text warns that if you stay at that level, you risk reincarnating as an animal because, well, effectively, you already are one.
Wow.
Right. So to move up, you have to ascend through image thinking, associative thinking, all the way up to holographic thinking.
Holographic thinking. That sounds like something out of sci-fi. What does that actually mean here?
Think of it like seeing the code behind the matrix. Material thinking sees the screen. Holographic thinking understands the software that's generating the image.
So you see the whole system.
You see the whole system. It's described as godlike thinking, perceiving the whole, the interconnectedness of everything, instead of just your little slice of reality.
And to get there, you have to align with 3 core values: truth, goodness, and beauty. But again, these words are not used in the way we typically use them.
Not at all. In Lifechanyuan, truth is the origin, the creator. Goodness is defined simply as order and harmony. In beauty is proportion and symmetry.
I really like the metaphor he used about art here. He says the visible world is just a canvas.
That's a key insight. He argues we get obsessed with the painting, the material world, and we totally forget the artist.
We fall in love with the scenery.
But ignore the source. The whole goal of holographic thinking is to look through the canvas to find the truth that's behind it.
Okay, so that's the metaphysical setup. We need to ascend our thinking. But if the goal is happiness and ascension, why is the world such a mess? Why is everyone so unhappy?
This is where the philosophy takes a really sharp left turn. I mean, most religions tell you that you are flawed, you know, original sin.
Right, you're born broken.
Xifeng says, no, that's not it. Humans aren't born with original sin. The problem isn't the people, it's the social operating mechanisms.
And this leads to my absolute favorite part of the reading, the toilet metaphor. I actually laughed out loud, but it's a perfect explanation of scarcity.
It's very earthy, isn't it? But it's so effective. He says, imagine 6 people living in an apartment with only 1 toilet.
It's a disaster waiting to happen.
An absolute disaster. People will fight, they'll bang on the door, they'll start to resent each other. Someone will try to lock it just to make sure they have access.
And this is the key point, it's not because they're bad people.
Exactly. They are fighting because the structure is bad. 1 toilet, 6 people. That creates the conflict. If you build 5 more toilets,
The sin just disappears.
it vanishes. Everyone gets along because the scarcity is gone.
So he takes that toilet logic and he applies it to everything.
To everything. He argues that private property, the nuclear family, and marriage, they're just like that single toilet. They create artificial scarcity. They create boundaries between mine and yours.
And as long as you have a mind, you have something to defend.
Which brings us to the villain of the story, the self.
The ego.
The ego. The texts are relentless about this. They argue that the only reason we feel pain, mental or spiritual pain, is because we have a self to protect.
It's that idea that if I insult you, it only hurts if you have vanity or dignity that you're clinging to.
Right. If you have no fortress, you can't be besieged. He talks about jealousy and complaining as toxins, and specifically jealousy. The source material states it explicitly, there is no jealousy in heaven.
That's a high bar.
It's a massive bar. He says jealousy is a sign of a flawed life structure. So if you feel jealousy, you are fundamentally unsuited for the celestial islands.
You can't get in.
You simply can't get in.
So we have a diagnosis. The structure of society forces us to be selfish, and that selfishness makes us miserable. So what's the cure? And I should warn you, this is where it gets really radical.
The cure, according to Lifechanyuan, is the second home, or the new oasis for life.
Which is essentially a commune.
It is, but the logic behind it is very specific. They advocate for the complete disintegration of the traditional family.
Disintegration. He doesn't mince words, does he? Why is the family such a problem for him? I mean, usually we think of family as the source of love, not the enemy of it.
That's the conventional wisdom. But Xifeng argues that family love is actually narrow love. It's selfish.
How so?
You love your spouse, your kids, your parents. By definition, that means you don't love others as much. It creates a wall. It creates an us versus them.
So in the second home, everyone is family.
Everyone is family. It operates on a communist principle, from each according to ability to each according to need. Children are raised collectively. The elderly are cared for by the whole community. No one owns a house. Everyone shares the oasis.
The idea being, if you remove the need to hoard resources for your little tribe, you eliminate the anxiety of survival.
Precisely. No loneliness because you're never alone. High efficiency because you aren't duplicating efforts. You don't need 50 kitchens for 50 people. You just need one big kitchen. It's really pitched as a training ground for heaven.
Training ground implies you have to pass a test. And the hardest test in these texts seems to be about romantic love.
Oh, absolutely. There's this one essay by Deiform Buddha called What Counts as Having Crossed the River?
The river being the gap between being a human and being a celestial being.
Right. And the water in that river, that's possessive love. That's the thing that drowns you.
I read the 8 conditions to cross this river.
Yeah.
They are demanding is an understatement.
They essentially demand the end of romance as we know it. You have to be open and straightforward. No secrets, no playing games. But the kicker is this. You have to allow others to love what you love.
No exclusive possession.
None. If you love someone and they love someone else, you have to be happy for them. If you feel even a twinge of jealousy, you haven't crossed the river. You're still drowning.
It totally redefines soulmate, doesn't it? We usually think of a soulmate as the one.
The Lifechanyuan definition is completely different. A soulmate isn't someone you own or lock down. It's just someone who resonates with your frequency. And the goal isn't to find one. The goal is to find a group of soulmates in the celestial worlds.
It's a shift from a scarcity mindset, there's only one person for me, to an abundance mindset.
Exactly. But to get there, you have to let go of the desire to control. And that links back to their core ethic, which they value above almost everything else, integrity.
Yes. Now, there's a story in the source material that illustrates this so perfectly. The story of Thea. I think we need to tell this one because it really grounds these abstract ideas.
It's a beautiful, if tragic, story. So Thea was an employee at a small trust bank in Germany before World War II. A client, a Jewish man fleeing persecution, comes in and deposits a ruby.
A big one.
A massive ruby, worth billions in today's money. He trusts her with it.
And then the war hits.
The war hits, the bank is destroyed, the client dies. Thea is left alone, in the rubble, with the bank records and this ruby.
And she's destitute, right? She's living in post-war ruins.
She is starving. She lives in poverty for decades. Now, just pause there. She has a rock in her pocket that could buy her a castle. No one knows she has it. The owner is dead. The bank is gone.
The records are probably burned.
Everything is gone. But she doesn't sell it.
For 40 years.
She doesn't. She guards it. For 40 years.
Yeah.
And eventually, she tracks down the client's grandson and returns it.
It's just unbelievable. And the text uses this to make a point about wealth.
It argues that Thea was the wealthiest person alive, not because of the ruby, but because of her soul. The text ranks wealth like this. Material wealth is third. Spiritual wealth is second. But wealth of the soul, integrity, that's number one.
Without it, you're spiritually bankrupt.
Totally. It's that idea that you are always watching yourself, even if no one else is. God is watching, essentially, or the Tao is watching. If you cheat, you might gain money, but you lose your soul.
Speaking of cheating, there's a counter story in the text that's really interesting. The story of Old Wang and Little Lou involving a scam.
The overnight wealth global financial company.
Sounds legitimate.
Totally. A classic Ponzi scheme. Little Lou gets greedy, invests everything, and of course, loses it all. Now, usually we'd say the scammer is just pure evil.
Right.
But the text asks a provocative question. Did the scammer fulfill Little Lou?
It's a tricky concept.
It is. But in a way, yes. The scammer held up a mirror to Little Lou's own greed. The ugly event revealed a flaw in Little Lou's soul that needed to be addressed. I mean, if Little Lou wasn't greedy, the scam wouldn't have worked.
So bad things happen to teach us things.
Yes, but the text is very careful here. It says, while ugly things can teach us lessons, we shouldn't seek them out. We shouldn't embrace the ugly.
Because it corrupts you.
Exactly. It ultimately corrupts you. We should pursue the true, the good, and the beautiful, but understand that when the bad does happen, it's usually showing us where we are still stuck in our material thinking.
It's about taking responsibility for your own reaction, which segues into their view on work. There's a section on role-playing.
This is the classic bloom where you are planted idea. Whether you are a CEO or a cleaner, you play that role perfectly.
They mention a Japanese lady who cleaned airport toilets so well she became a national treasure.
Right, and the philosophy says, don't grumble that you aren't the CEO. Grumbling is poison. Improve your emotional intelligence by perfecting your current role. If you're a cleaner, make those tiles shine. That is how you perfect your soul.
It's not the job title that elevates you.
No, it's the spirit in which you do the job.
It seems like a lot of this philosophy is about simplifying. Simplifying your wants, simplifying your ego.
And simplifying happiness.
Sure.
Schuffing shares these tales of happiness where he realizes happiness is just having water when you're thirsty.
Having a bed.
Right. It goes back to the pig with the villas. If you think happiness requires a yacht, you'll always be miserable. But if you realize happiness is a quilt on a cold night, you're free.
You're bulletproof.
Completely. If your requirements for happiness are that low, the world can't take anything away from you.
Now, we have to talk about the end game. We've talked about living, but the texts are very specific about dying. Xiufeng wrote a set of instructions for his own life upon turning 60 they're pretty stark.
Stark is the word. He views 60 as the completion of a full life cycle. Anything after that is just bonus time.
And he refuses any kind of intervention.
Completely. No resuscitation, no organ transplants, no life-prolonging tech. If he gets terminally ill, he wants to go. He wants to follow nature's rhythm, not fight it.
And the funeral. Or lack thereof.
No funeral, no tombstone, no monument. Cremate the body, scatter the ashes, and then party. Sing and dance, celebrate. He says life is a dream, and when we wake up, it's all gone anyway. He explicitly says he doesn't want to be a burden on his children or society. He wants to leave zero footprint.
Return to the void cleanly.
Yes. And it's so consistent with the no-self idea. If you don't cling to your ego, you don't need a statue. You don't need people to cry over you.
Why would you?
Exactly. Why would you need a monument on Earth if you're heading to the Celestial Islands continent? If you truly believe you are ascending, the discarded body means nothing.
So let's talk about that destination. What is the promised land of Lifechanyuan actually like? Because if you're giving up your family, your private property, and your ego, the payoff better be good.
It's the ultimate realization of the second home. It's described as a place with no government, no police, no courts, no currency.
Doors are not bolted at night.
And love is free. It's a place where everyone has crossed the river, no jealousy, no possession, just pure holographic existence.
It's a society of souls.
It's a society of souls who no longer need rules because they have perfected their internal goodness.
It sounds utopian, almost impossible from where we sit today.
It does. But they would argue it's only impossible because we are still thinking like pigs in villas. We're still obsessed with the mud.
So let's just zoom out and look at the whole picture here, because this is a lot to take in.
It is.
We have a philosophy that diagnoses our suffering as a symptom of our structure, our families, our property, our very self.
And it offers a solution that is, let's be honest, terrifying to the modern mind. Tear down the walls, dissolve the family, share everything.
It requires a level of vulnerability that is almost hard to imagine.
It does. It asks you to walk out of your fortress without any armor.
But the argument is,
Yeah.
the armor is what's crushing you.
That's the crux of it. We spend our whole lives building defenses, financial defenses, emotional defenses, ego defenses. We think they keep us safe.
But they don't.
Lifechanyuan argues they just keep us in prison. They argue that security is actually just isolation.
It brings up a question that I've been stuck on since reading all this. The text says, "The world is faultless, and all faults lie within us." That is a heavy mirror to look into.
It removes all your excuses. You can't blame the economy or your partner or the government. If you are unhappy, it's because your thinking level is wrong. It puts all the responsibility squarely on your shoulders to change your mind.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, that's the thought we want to leave you with. You don't have to join a commune to feel the weight of this question.
No, not at all. You can ask it right now.
How much of your unhappiness today, right now, is tied to yourself, your vanity, your desire to possess someone or something, your refusal to let go?
And the final question, what would happen if you simply stopped clinging?
Something to mull over. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.